Hey guys, welcome to another limited review video here on the Nitsuhon Magic channel. Today we are looking at the best commons and uncommons in black. And we'll just go ahead and start right away. The third best black uncommon, I think, is Vampiric Rites. This is one I'm a little bit iffy on. It's just, enchantments that you have to, pump mana into, or sometimes it's hard to tell if they're good, but I think this one actually is. It's one black mana, so it's very cheap to cast, and it's definitely worth that casting cost. And then once you have a creature and any creatures in play, you can sacrifice them to gain a life and draw a card. I think this is especially good when your opponent has removal in his hand and he knows whatever he targets, you're going to use Vampiric Rites and not lose your card advantage over. You only have to leave 2 mana up, so I think by mid to late game is where this is at its best. Early, it's good to play it on turn 1, but it's probably a bad idea to keep your mana back and try to keep Vampiric Rites up all the time. Otherwise, you'll fall behind on board. And it's also pretty good because there are a number of cards, and it looks like it's the black-white archetype, sort of at least, is life gain. So there are a number of cards that say, whenever you gain life, do this. And there's also Feldar Sovereign, which they reprinted, which says if you're at 40 or more life, you win the game. Plus, he's a 4/6 for 6 with Vigilance and Lifelink. So it's a good card. It's a rare, but there are commons and uncommons like this one that either allow you to gain life or care about life gain. And this one also lets you draw cards, and it's just great to use in response to an opponent using removal. The second best uncommon, I think, is another card that cares about life gain. So that's looking good for that archetype in black anyway. 2 and a black for a 2/1 with flying and death touch already would be playable, and probably more than playable. It'd be considered a pretty good card. It's no Vampire Nighthawk, but it's not super far away from that either. Lifelink does make a difference, of course, as does the 3 toughness that the Nighthawk has. But this is sort of, a weaker version of that because the Nighthawk was clearly too strong. But whenever you gain life, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So in conjunction with something like Vampiric Rites, he can hit harder, and he's a good for doing damage early in the game anyway, and then trades with basically any creature you want him to later in the game. The best uncommon is a pretty awesome card, ridiculous even. 6 mana. It's one of the Devoid cards, so it's technically colorless, but obviously you need to be playing black to cast it. And it's an instant speed spell which lets you exile target creature and target land. This Grip of Desolation. This is, would be good in any format and playable in any format, but in a format where you have these ingest creatures and you have the processor creatures that take cards out of exile to create an effect, Grip of Desolation is even better. It's also even better because there are not only rare man lands in this set, but awakened lands, so you can actually end up destroying 2 creatures with Grip of Desolation if your opponent has awakened one of their lands, and people will be doing that pretty regularly. So Grip of Desolation is going to be a good 2-for-1 pretty frequently, and it's instant speed too, which is crazy as well. So those are the best uncommons. I think the first 2 especially are very powerful, and I think Grip of Desolation and Malakir Familiar are probably both first pickable, depending on what else is in your pack, of course, but especially the Grip of Desolation. Anyway, on to the best commons. I think the third best common is Demon's Grasp. It's a little bit clunky, especially after we just saw the really good removal spell we saw in Grip of Desolation. This one also, I guess, is a grip, Demon's Grasp. It's only sorcery speed, but it's 5 mana to give something -5/-5. In the late game, this can be really, and that's usually when you're going to be casting it. It can be a really great spell to remove a creature or to make it so your opponent has no good blocks before combat. Things like that. It's not amazing. I wasn't sure about how good it is, especially because black has better removal than this. But I think most black decks will be happy to have one of these. And you can probably get it in the middle of a pack pretty easily because it's not the most amazing card ever, but it is removal, and removal is always at a premium. The second best card is also a removal spell. It's Bone Splinters, a card that's been good basically every time it's been printed. And it's especially good in sets where you can create a bunch of creature tokens. And this is one of those sets because we have the Eldrazi Spawns, I think is what they're called, the new 1/1 creatures who can sack to add mana to your mana pool. And black has a number of ways of creating these. The black-green archetype looks like it's really about creating those Eldrazi tokens. And that's probably where Bone Splinters will be at its best. But, anytime, you do have to 2-for-1 yourself, but oftentimes in the later part of a game, you have a dude who's on the table who's not doing anything, and your opponent has this huge bomb on the table, and you can deal with that bomb by sacrificing your weakest creature, or even better, by sacrificing a creature token that you got for very little investment. It's, you know, a third of a card instead of a whole card. And it lets you destroy any creature. It's unconditional, I mean, other than having to have a creature to sacrifice, so that's pretty good. And the number 1 spell is also a removal spell, so as usual, black is stacked with removal, and the number 1 card is Complete Disregard. It's a 3 mana spell that lets you exile a creature with power 3 or less. It's, you know, comparable to Reeve's Soul, but the fact it costs 1 more mana and is in exchange is an instant makes it a little bit different. And again, in this format, exiling things instead of destroying them is relevant, especially for black, as black has a number of the processor creatures. So those are what I think are the best commons and uncommons in black. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to enter my Battle for Zendikar draft giveaway, which there should be an annotation for at the end of this video. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber yet. Thanks for watching.